joining us for our Discover What's Possible webinar on the power of robust reporting. My name is Julianne Manning, and I'm the product specialist here at Saran. Today's presenter is Hannah Roethle, who has worked for Saran for several years in many capacities. Currently, Hannah is a member of our 5-star technical support team, so we're really excited for Hannah's presentation here today. We are also joined in the chat with several members of our team, including Alex Clay, our CEO, Sherry Snedden, our support manager, Jennifer Nelson, our support technician, Chris Widener, our marketing specialist, and Eli Turner, our sales specialist. Before we get started today, we wanted to make mention that we are still in the early bird sign up window for our annual users conference. If you sign up prior to July 31st, you will save $125. The annual users conference is a great time, and this year we're celebrating our 25th annual conference, and with that, the countless connections that we have made through the years. We have 4 suggested tracks that you can follow based on your training needs, and those include accounting, Discover CDM Plus, membership and contributions, and these are just suggested tracks where we knit together classes that tie to each of those programs. But you are more than welcome to make your own schedule and go to the classes that best fit your needs. A new track offered this year is a training specially geared towards our Church of God state offices. Sherry Snedden, our support manager, will be leading this series where you will receive training tailored toward the Church of God state offices needs. Make sure you take advantage of that early bird special. If you have not done so already, make sure you sign up for our Discover webinar taking place on July 22nd. This Discover webinar will be different as we have asked several of our support technicians to participate in a panel discussion where they will highlight their favorite tips and tricks when working with CDM Plus. So no matter what your experience is with CDM Plus reports, I am confident that you will get some great takeaways here today and learn more about how you can use reports to better meet the needs of your organization. And without further ado, Hannah, over to you.
Thanks, Julianne. Alrighty, so custom reports are in pretty much every section of the program. You can find them by, if you go to this reports, like the upper left-hand corner of your screen, there we go. So they're always going to be under the listings and exports pathway, which is just a nice and easy way to know where you can find them. So whether you're in membership or you're under events, like these custom listings are always going to be under that listing and exports pathway. So for the purpose of today's, we are going to use the custom listing and export for contributions. That one is a pretty common one, so I'm just going to go ahead and open that here. All right, so with the custom listing and export, the nice thing also about these windows is the fact that they are all the same in their layout. So whether you're using the contribution custom listing and export or a membership, attendance, event, the windows are going to be laid out the same and the tabs are going to all do the same thing. The difference is simply going to be what type of data you are searching for. So in this case, we are searching for contributions. So any of the information or fields that we're going to pick in this particular window are going to be geared towards contributions. So the first tab that a report window is going to open up to is your search tab. And it's going to open to your standard search. So first off, we just have a date range. So in this case, I want to search by contribution date. And we're just going to choose September of last year. There we go. All right, so we've now got our date here. You do have the option with your giving funds. You can either just have all of them selected, or if I look through here and say, I only want to select specific funds, then you have the option to select only specific ones. And then depending on if you're doing like historical reporting, there's also this option down here at the bottom for show inactive. So if you had inactivated old giving funds, you could just check that and then they're going to show up here with little asterisks. So anyone that you know as an asterisk is inactive. So that's just great for doing different historical reporting as needed. For this example, I'm just going to do all giving funds. And then there's also events. Once again, you can do all or selected. So your events, you can, kind of categorize based on what the contributions where you're giving to. These could change once again based on what you're searching. Like if we were in a events, this like event registration, this might look slightly different, but the layout of what you're searching is the same. So I'm just going to leave it on all giving funds, all events, and all payment types. So this is just kind of your search function. The search tab is saying this is like the type of information I want to look at. So then your next thing is the columns tab. And this is where you decide what fields you want on the report. So we ran our search to say, what information do I want to look at? And now our fields are going to tell us the specific information that we're pulling from that search. Custom listing and exports give you the ability to create various different sets. And these sets allow you to create different sets of criteria, if you will. So if you want to create like a contributions report that is really specific to help against your bank statements, you can. Or if you just want to pull information that's more specific to your giving unit records or the people who are giving, you have the ability to do that. And you can create as many of these as you want. And you can also edit them after the fact. So we're going to go ahead and demonstrate that here. If you click this little plus button right next to the drop-down menu, this is going to allow you to create a new set of fields. So I'm going to create contributions. We're just going to call it contributions here, and then it's going to automatically open the editor window here where you can modify your custom listing sets. So in the custom listing sets window, you've got 3 different columns here. The first column is available fields that you can choose from. Once again, these available fields are going to be determined based on where you are in the program. So if I am searching for contributions, it's going to pull any fields that are related to contributions. So that means contributions that were given or giving units and the giving unit records, or in this case, addresses, because we know that a contribution record has to be attached to someone. But like this type of report wouldn't pull anything from attendance because it doesn't connect. There's actually a really great, let me see if I can grab my slide here. In CDM Plus, there's a way that the fields all connect together and with different parent records. So like if you're under contributions, you know that there's going to be giving unit records, and then there's going to be groups, contribution records, pledges, memorial gifts, all that kind of stuff. And so based on where you are in the program, determines what fields you're going to look at. And so that's just something to keep in mind when you're trying to run a custom report is what information do I want? If you're trying to look for something like a directory or addresses, you'd want to use address instead of individual. But if you want to look for specific people information, you would want to go to individual instead of address because address may not have everything that the individual has. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so we are going to go ahead and create this contributions report. So in order to add fields that you want, your second column is the fields in set. So this just tells me what fields are actually in my report. So I'm going to go ahead and grab contribution date. And here you can either double click, which is what I'm doing, or you can drag and drop fields. And then that will bring them over. And then if I decide, I don't actually want deposit ID, maybe I double clicked or when I didn't mean to, or maybe I just thought better of it. It's like, I don't want this field anymore. Once again, you can either double click to move it back, or you can drag and drop it over. So I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's see, contribution date, deposit date, total contributions. And then, like I was touching on earlier with just like the different fields, you have these red headers. So like this one is contribution, the next one's giving fund, the next one's giving unit. And then under these headers, the fields are in alphabetical order. So that's just a nice way to know how it's organized based on what you're looking for. So let me see. I've got the date that the contribution was given, the date it went to my bank, how much it was for. And then if I go to giving funds, I want to see, okay, what giving fund? So that's going to be description. And then I also want to see who gave these contributions. So I'm going to go ahead and grab full giving unit name because I want to see the whole thing, not just first or last. Um, and then the last thing I want is the payment type. So I'm going to go back up to contributions for payment type. There we go. And then if you want to move these fields around in any order, you have the ability to do that. So let's say I want to put the name before the actual dollar amount. So in this case, you would click once on the field you want to move, and then you just drag it, and you can kind of see that little line that jumps around. That just indicates where you're putting it, and then you just kind of let go. So you just click on it once, drag it, and let go in order to reorder those fields. The other great thing with custom listing reports is sometimes you have the ability to add extra criteria to these fields. If you have the ability to define these fields, they are going to have an asterisk next to them. So in this case, for full giving unit name, I actually have some extra options. This says I can put the last name first if I want to. I'm going to say yes. And then you also have the ability to choose the mailing name or the salutation name. For this case, I'm just going to leave it as the mailing name versus the salutation name. Different fields that have different asterisks obviously are going to have different things that you can customize. And then the other thing is every one of these fields has the ability to do a custom name. So if I want to call this, let's see, if I just want it to say total instead of total contributions, I can do that. And then what is nice about this is right here in the gray text, it's going to tell you what the actual field is because I have now renamed this. So if you didn't, if this went to somebody else and they wanted to create a report, if they came in here, they would be able to see, oh, she used the field total contributions right here because there is actually no field that says total. So that's just something to keep in mind. You have changed the name, but if you go into the edit to edit this, then you'll be able to see what the original field was. Okay, so now that I have my fields, I'm just going to go ahead and hit close. There's no save button. It just automatically saves what you're doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit close there. And then you're going to see that these populate over here. So now we've set our search. We have created our fields. So now we get to sort them. So we're going to go down to this little button at the bottom that says configure sorts and totals. All right. And here's where you can sort the report to basically put it in what order do you want to see it as. So I am going to put this as deposit date first, and then I'm going to do the contribution date, and then I'm going to do the full giving unit name. And once again, these fields are going to mimic the exact same structure as what was in the field editor. So that's also great just for remembering where things are. I am also going to go ahead and subtotal this by the deposit date so I can just kind of subtotal everything that was put in the bank at the same time. And like obviously, as you can see here, there's different fields. You can put these in ascending or descending order. You can choose to separate them out by new page. You also have the ability to show a grand total at the bottom if you want to. And then obviously you've got all of these different ways to sort it. So definitely play around with this. It can be very interesting to see how the report changes based on the hierarchy of sorting. So it will always sort first by the first one, then by the second one, then by the third one, and so on. So definitely play around with this because it can actually be fun to see how it sorts, how it subtotals. So let me see here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, and that's going to change the way it's sorted. You do have the ability to change a little bit here. Like this, I can give it the name of the report. So if I want to name it, if I can spell, contributions report instead of custom listing. I want to leave it in columns, but I do want to force the columns to fit on one page. So this just kind of has some different editing options for how you want the report to look. But before we hit refresh to actually see what it looks like, we're going to go through some of the other tabs. So on this report, the next one is export. You really only need to play with this if you are taking this report and throwing it into a CSV file. So this tab just kind of gives you the ability to structure the CSV file, but if you're not doing that, you can just totally ignore this one. Then you've got the report. This tab may or may not show up on your custom listing. It really just depends on which one you're doing. It's just an extra feature. So if I wanted to do a custom listing and export for, in this case, it's telling me I can either pick a range of given unit records, or I could pick just one specifically. You have the ability to do that. So it's just an extra thing. It's not always in different reports. So, that's just something to keep in mind. You may not see it on every custom listing and export, but it does crop up depending on what the feature is. The next one's going to be formatting. So once again, this is just kind of how you want the report to look. I don't need, date stamp, time stamp, user stamp. That doesn't really matter. You can align it if I want to make the text go to the left or if I want to leave it in the center. I want to leave the name, but maybe I don't want the search description. And I can also change the date format, the font, and the size. So this is literally just formatting options here on how you want the report to look. The next one is page setup. So in this case, I know I kind of got a lot of fields, so I want to change this to be landscape mode just to kind of give my report some more space. You also have the ability to change depending on what you're printing. You can change even more, it's like your page setup for printing. So that's just helpful for the actual printing of your report. Then there's the logo tab. So if you want to go ahead and add a logo to your report, you totally can. This is especially great if you're doing stuff like with event registration, if you want to add like your VBS logo, or even if you're just printing a contributions report and you want to put your church logo on there or other organization logo. So that's just a nice little feature that you can do. You can position it where you want, shift it, scale it, kind of have fun with that. Text, this is kind of like the export. If you're just like sending this into a text file, you have the ability to just kind of play with some of the settings. But, once again, if you're not exporting this to a text file, you don't need to pay attention to this tab for right now. And then finally, we've got, let me see, we'll deal with the load save in a minute. Okay. So we have set our search. We have fixed the columns that we want. We have sorted it how we want, and we have formatted how we want it to look. So all that remains is for us to actually see what our report looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh in the upper right-hand corner of the screen here. And there we go. This is going to show us our report. So it's showing us subtotaling it by the deposit date. And then also we got the contribution date. And then you can see here how it is now. Remember, I had it sorted by the full last name. And then when I had edited it, we had told it to put the last name first. So it has now put it in alphabetical order based on last name. And so that's what I was saying with the sorting options. Like, play around with this. If you go to configure, you want to say, hey, I want to put these in reverse alphabetical order. I can change this to be in descending, and then it's going to put it in reverse order. So there we go. All right. And then refresh just allows you to just kind of see it at a glance. Now, if my window was smaller or I didn't have much space, just depending on my computer monitor size, you can hit this button over on the left that says expand. And that's just kind of going to hide all of the tab information over on the side and just show you the report. So it's just a nice, clean way to view the report, especially if you've got, smaller space or you're just working on a laptop, smaller monitor. And then if you need to make any changes, then at any time you can just go ahead and click on the tab and it just pulls all that information back. And then you've also got different options, whether you want to print to screen versus refreshing, CSV, text file, clipboard, PDF, or just straight print this. You also may see the options for Numbers and Excel. Numbers is, for Mac, Excel's for Windows. You will only see these buttons if you have the program downloaded onto your computer. So in this case, my computer has both Numbers and Excel downloaded onto it. But if you do not have these programs downloaded onto your computer, you will not see these buttons. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. All right, so the other great thing is, okay, let's say I created this report, that's all fine and dandy, and I don't want it to change. Maybe I just want to change the date range at a different time, but I want to save this for later. Because when you switch back and forth between these sets, obviously this set has different criteria than this one. Well, your sorts don't change. They remain the same until you change them. So if you created this sort and you really like this sort and you don't want to change it, you want to save it for later, you have the ability to do that. So you would just go to this bottom tab that says Load Save. And in this case, you would just hit Save New and then give it a name. So in this case, I'm just going to call it my primary contributions report. Okay, cool. So that is going to save exactly the way I set it up. It is going to remember every single setting that I selected. So if I come in here later and say you're just messing around with the report, you selected a different set. Maybe we decided to sort this by let's see, only contribution date, and we didn't want to sort anything else. Refresh. You've just been playing around with it. You're trying to figure out the different settings. You're like, nah, I don't like how this looks. I just want to go back to what I know. All right, go ahead and hit load save. And then if you you can either click once and hit load, or you can double click it. Give it a second to load there. And it is going to return to our set. It returned all of our configure settings. And if I hit refresh, my report's back the way I want it. And that is something to keep in mind, that you do have to hit refresh after you do that, the page will not automatically refresh for you. So like you saw there, I had, changed how it looked, and then I loaded a report here and it didn't really change. It's not going to change until you hit refresh to reflect the fact that you made those changes. So just another thing to kind of keep in mind. And then say you just have been kind of messing around with it. You've got all these settings that you've set up somewhere, but maybe you just want to start from scratch, or maybe you've been playing with it so deep you can't even remember where your settings were, half an hour ago. That's happened to me before. So if you just want to restore your window back to factory settings, you can do that. You just go ahead and hit this default, and it says this will reset, and you can hit yes. This is not going to change anything that you set up under the columns tab. Like, it's not going to change the actual sets that you created. And I'll show you that in a second here when it's done. Come on, there we go. So you can see here, it returned my report to like the search tab is now kind of blank. It returned this formatting back the way it used to be, and it also will turn your configure sorts and totals back to 0, but it doesn't change these. So like, these remain because I created them. It's just kind of resetting all of the different extra settings that you set up. So that's just a nice way to go back to a clean slate if you ever feel like it. So those are all of the various tabs, a lot of the features. But the other thing I really wanted to show you guys today was the advanced search. So we are going to go ahead and let me set up a search here. Just going to go back to our September of 2024. There we go. I'm just going to kind of leave it on all. All right. So advanced search can be accessed by hitting the tab up here at the top left. You've got standard search, and then you've got your advanced search tab. So in this case, it's telling me I have no advanced find specified, which is great because we haven't done anything with it yet. There are some options down here at the bottom. So you have the option to do advanced search only if you want to. If you do advanced search only, that is going to ignore everything that you set up in the standard search. If you do the bottom one, this is going to be kind of an or. So if you're picking one or the other, so it'll pull results based on different criteria. The middle one is advanced and standard. So if I set up my specific standard search here, I say I want to look at all giving funds, all events, and all payment types for this specific date range. But I also want to add extra information that I would want to make sure I do this. So that way it remembers both. So we're going to go ahead and configure the advanced search. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this button right here. And actually, let me just go ahead and clear whatever we had up there previously. Okay, so in the advanced find, you have 3 tabs up at the top. There's primary record, related records, and saved searches. So saved search, kind of self-explanatory. This is where you have the ability to save searches. But if you had a search that you created and you're like, hey, I really like this search, I'm going to use it a lot, you have the ability to save that search. And then you could come back here and load it, which we'll do in a bit. So I can show that off. Primary record is going to be searching, like it says here, contributions records where. And so it's just going to kind of pull these primary records. So it's just pulling more primary information over here. So like you could search by mailing name, or maybe I want to search by, a detailed amount that somebody gave. You have the ability to do that, which I'm actually going to clear that again because I don't want to do that. The one I really wanted to touch on is actually related records. So related records allows you to dive just a little bit deeper into your fields. So let's say with this contribution, custom, and listing and export, I can see, okay, I can see the gifts that people gave in September of 2024. But maybe I only want to see what gifts members gave, like my active members at my organization. It's fabulous when you get guest gifts, but I want to see what members are part of that group. Well, that's not a primary record. That's going to be a related record because that is a field that's deep under individual records. So what we're going to do is add a related record. So you would hit that button over here that says add related record. And I know that membership status is handled under individual records. So we're going to go ahead and select that option. You can, just like I did, either double click or you can click on it once and hit OK. Either pathway will get you there. And then the other thing, just to, yes, we were match. Okay. So now this is telling me individual records where. So now this drop down is going to pull information from individual records. So since I know I'm going for membership status, I can just scroll down through this list in alphabetical order. And here's my membership status. I want it to be equal to active. So this is just going to kind of give you your drop down of your different membership statuses. This list may look different based on your organization because these fields are user defined. So if your list doesn't look exactly like mine, that's totally okay. So I'm going to go ahead and grab active members and hit OK. And then I know I want to add this to my search. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the OK button over on the right. There we go. All right. So now I know with my report, I did my standard search of September 1st through the 30th, all giving funds, all events, all payment types. And now I have my advanced search. Here is the thing to keep in mind. And this was something I actually didn't, something I learned myself very recently is the advanced search will only pull advanced search if you are on that tab. If you tab off to standard search and hit refresh, it's not going to change what I did. Which that did change just simply because I had changed other criteria. But moving off of the advanced search is not going to pull the advanced search information. So you always want to make sure you are on the advanced search tab in order to pull that criteria. So in this case, when I hit refresh, this list got significantly smaller than it was before because I had a bunch of guest gifts in September, but I told my advanced search that I only wanted to see guest gifts, that I only wanted to see gifts in September from members that were with an active status. And this shows me that right there. So yeah, the advanced search, like I said, just make sure you're always on this advanced search tab when you're ready to refresh or print or send it into Excel or numbers. And then once again, just definitely play around with the advanced search. It can do a lot of different things. Um, Another thing which I can just show you real quickly here is you could also search, say you wanted to search, in this case, gifts by age. You have the ability to do that. So you can say, let's say I want to see gifts where the person is, 18 years old, but maybe you want to cap it. Maybe you want to see a specific date range of 18 to 28. You can do that. So up here it says and or. So I want to see people between the ages of 18 and 28. So I'm going to leave it as and I'm going to hit this gray button right here. So that is basically duplicating what I have up here. So now I can say less than or equal to 28. So now I have told this advanced find, I want to look for people who are greater than or equal to age 18 and anybody with the age of less than or equal to 28. And then that will narrow down the results. So once again, just kind of play around with the advanced search. There are a lot of different ways you can do this. I could change this to be or. That is going to drastically change the search if unless I did it as and. So the advanced find definitely allows you to search at a much larger capacity than the standard search. The standard search is going to be more limited to like that specific window, like, it's contributions. So it's only going to pull search information from the contribution records. But the advanced find is going to allow you to branch out a little bit more into deeper and more related records, which I just think is pretty cool. I'm just going to go ahead actually and cancel this out. Go back to my standard search. So yeah, that is our custom listing and export kind of that overview of all the different things that it can do. So now we are up for some questions. So I hope this gives you a bit of a taste on how you can use our custom reportings to, streamline your process and get the data you're looking for. We are going to move to some questions.
Hannah, there was one question that came up about when setting up columns, do you have to name it or just put the amount of the columns you want in your report? Can you just go over that real quickly again?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with the columns, you're on the columns tab. This is where you have your drop down of different sets. So if you want to create a new set, you do have to give it a name, but it doesn't really matter what you call it as long as you or your coworkers are going to know what it means. So just kind of just give it a name that you'll remember what it is. And then you've got your fields here. You decide what fields you want to put on that custom report. So like I said, you just either double click or drag and drop over the fields that you want, or, same rule applies to drag and drop them back over if you don't want them. And then if you ever want to edit your set, you just hit that gray button is the editor. So the plus button will add it. The gray arrow will edit your sets.
Just going to pick one out here, Hannah. Is there a way to sort individual names fields so it can come out by head of household, spouse, then child?
Yeah, so the sorting is going to be determined based on the fields that you have put on the report and then how you sort them. So I chose to sort this by clicking on the configure sorts and totals button at the bottom. Let me see. So I had changed this earlier, but I had chosen to sort this based on full giving unit name. So let me go ahead and find that here. And then I put it in descending order, which puts it in alphabetical order. I had also put in the edit. If you go back in here to the fields, I chose to list the last name first. So that's why it's putting it in the last name is now listed first. And then I was sorting it by full giving unit name. So if you had a report where you entered household status as one of the fields, which I don't know if that is it may be on this report, but yeah. So if you put that field on the report and you wanted the household status, you could then choose to sort by that household status, and then it would do that for you.
When setting up columns, do you have to name it or just put in the amount of columns you want in your report?
Yeah, so it is going to ask you to name the sets because you do have to be able to pick them from the list here. And then once you've entered your name, like haha, this is a test, it will then automatically open the editor for you to then start adding fields.
All right, thank you.
And then there was a question if you could re-review the subtotal setup, and maybe provide a couple different options on how to use that.
Sure. So let me see if I go back to my report here. Okay. So I set the search for, contributions for September 1st through September 30th. So I'm just looking at a month total. So if you do configure sorts and totals, one of the ones that will suggest, especially if you're doing a bank rec, on that one you might want to use like add the field for deposit ID, but for the sake, I'm not gonna do that here, but I'm choosing to sort it by deposit date first. Um, then I'm going to sort it by contribution date. And then I'm going to sort it, based on full giving unit name. And then I'm going to subtotal by deposit date. So the first few, ascending, descending, is just going to determine the order. So like for the full giving unit name, if I leave it in ascending order, it's going to put it in alphabetical order. If I put it in descending, it'll put it in reverse alphabetical order. And then subtotal is like lumping that specific set of fields together. New page will throw that sort onto a new page. Grand total will just kind of give you a grand total. So that could be nice if you're trying to see a grand total for a month. So let me just refresh this here. So you can see since I set the sort to be the deposit contribution and then the giving unit name, you can see here it's saying, okay, for a deposit date of, well, we use this one here, September 11th, there were $30. And so it's lumping together all the different gifts that were deposited on this date. This says September 23rd, and then here's my total. And then I told it to have a grand total. So it's going to tell me this is my grand total of contributions for the date range that I searched. And it also tells you there's a grand total of 20 records. So this is definitely something to play around with, depending on what you're trying to sort. And then this is the hierarchy. So it will sort first based on whatever's listed first, and then second, and then third, and so on.
I think there's a few conversations going on in the chat that are wrapping up. So I want to thank everyone again for being here today. We hope it was time well spent. We hope you discovered something new. Just remember, if you have any questions about what we covered in today's presentation, you can always reach out to support through the Help Center. Thank you again for being here. We hope you have a great week.